Today I'm going to show you how to make engaging status bars in Braze, and I'm even going to guarantee that you'll have one ready to be launched by the end of this video, no matter how much Braze experience you have already. And the cool thing is, the things I'm going to teach you, such as designing images quickly in Figma or swapping out images dynamically in Braze, can be applied to hundreds of other applications. And you're also going to learn about if-else logic with Liquid in Braze, which can be used everywhere. And don't worry, if you haven't done any Liquid before, I got you. You can do this. Status bars are everywhere, from loyalty points to user streaks to health bars in games to hype trains on live streams. They are everywhere for good reason. Status bars tap deep into human psychology because not only do we love the simplicity of seeing something visually, we also love a challenge. For example, loyalty bars work because we want to fill the bar and get our reward. And streak bars work because we want to see how long we can go for without feeling the failure of going back to zero. And one you may not have thought of is status bars that go in reverse, such as health bars in video games. They quickly show us how far away we are from dying, and we want to avoid that. And you know what else is like a status bar? That like button. So give it a tap and watch it go up. I know you want to. Okay, now that we know how important and cool status bars are, let's build one in Braze the easy way. So first thing, we're going to go into Figma at figma.com. You can sign up for a free account. It's very easy. And you'll come into a design file like this. We're going to push R on the keyboard. R is for rectangle. We're going to draw ourselves a rectangle. Don't worry too much about the dimensions. And it's going to say the size underneath. Mine says 559 by 71. And if the average email width, we're going to say is about 600, just as an example. What we can do is we can go over the dimensions here on the right, and we can go into width and type in 600, hit enter, and watch the shape. It'll go to exactly 600 pixels wide. It says it's 71. I'm just going to make it 75. You can literally make this any size you want. I just figure 600 is a good width. And then under here, we're going to put a border on that just so we can see the outline. That's called stroke. We click on stroke. We can pick a color. I might go like, I don't know, whatever this random teal color is. I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of a border on that at the moment. And I've got that there, but I'm going to make the border wider with the weight. And you can slide these back and forth or type a number in if you want. I'm just going to slide it into there. I'm going to put my weight at about 7. You can put it however you like. And there we have ourselves a very basic status bar. Now, if you want to jazz that up a little bit, you can come up here and you'll find, you should be able to find corners, corner radius. And if you put in something like 50, it'll round the ends right out like that. So now we have a pretty reasonable looking status bar. Now that's essentially our 0 status bar at this point. So what we want to do is we can do that and do Control D, and we'll get a second one of those, and we can put it underneath and line them up perfectly. And now in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to come back over to Fill, click on Fill, and the second little button along here on the top, if you hover over that says Gradient, we're going to click Gradient. And now you can see it's put a gradient from white through to gray. And if I move that, you can see the gradient changes inside that box. This is really helpful because this is how we're going to quickly build our status bars. So I'm going to leave white as my main color, but I'm going to click on this little tab here. I'm going to make red, just to make it really obvious, my other color for my gradient. Now what I can do, I can swap these over. See, I just drag them completely over the top of each other. And you can see it swaps over. And now I essentially have this gradient bar I can fill up. And I'm going to make a handful of these. And how we're going to work this in Braze is we're not going to have this bar moving. We're going to show a different version of this image depending on where they're up to. And you'll see that in a minute. So for my first one, let's say I want that to be 25%. You can come down here and I can type 25% into the red. So that's exactly 25%. And you can slide this white one out wherever you want. But if I also make white 25%, I just get a really clear line here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to do Control D. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to come over to the fill again and click in there. I've got my gradients already there. I'm pretty sure you have to do white first. I think I had some problems with it, but if I make white 50 and then I make red 50, that's our 50% bar. Do Control D and I come over to here again, and then I can do white 75, do red 75, Control D, and I can go into here and I can do white 100 and red 100. Look at that. Within that short amount of time, I now have a 0, a 25, a 50, a 75, and a 100% status bar. Now you could do these in any gradients you wanted. You could do them in 0, you could do them 0, you could do them 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 if you wanted to take the time to make that many images. But I'd just suggest doing like 20s, 40s, 25s, those sorts of things at this point. And if you wanted them in reverse, you just flip those gradient colors over as I showed you and do it the other way around. Now what we need to do is export each of these as its own image file. So I'm going to click on one. I'm going to come down in the bottom right and click export. It's going to say, what do you want to export those? It's called rectangle because my images are called rectangle over here, but if you name them, it'll go as that. So actually, I'm just going to pause the video for a moment. I'm just going to quickly name everything. All right, and we're back. And on the side here, I've just named mine 0 bar. If I click on that, I get this bar, 25 bar, 50 bar, 75 bar, and the 100 bar. And I called it the 100 bar because that's what the cool kids in the street call it. So it's the 100 bar. You know it. Anyway, what we want to do with each of these now is we want to export these. So I click on the top one. It says export 0 down here. Now these need to be PNGs. It's really important because you can see here, when I highlight it, it draws a rectangle around that, even though the edges are curved. And what that means, if I export this as a JPEG, it'll actually export a rectangle that won't be clear in the background. So you need this to be transparent. So export it as a PNG file. I do export 0. I'm going to put them in a folder called streak. And I'm just going to save that one. 0 bar save. And then I come to the next one and I hit export. You can export them all at the same time, but they go into a zip file. I just find this is easier when I don't have many. The 25 bar save, 50 save, 100 save. And that's everything we need to do in Figma for now. One thing I just did want to mention though is if you want to make these bars a bit fancier, when you click on one and you go into the gradient effect, as I showed before, if you pull these out a bit, you get this nice fade through. But here, it has 2 tabs, color tabs. You can add as many as you want. So currently I have red and white, but I could double click in the middle. Oh, double click here. I can get another one. I can make that green, for instance. And now we have this fading through into white, green, and red. It doesn't look great at the moment, but and I can click here. I can put a blue in there, for instance, or a purple. So you can add as many as you want in here and just make these constant gradients all through here. So you could essentially have brand colors in here. You could have nice fading gradients through however you want. Now you can also do the same thing in MS Paint if you wanted to. It's a little more complicated. I'll show you at the end of the video how to do that, but it's kind of fun to know how to do that in MS Paint as well. Anyway, over to Braze. All right, so here we are in Braze. Now I've set up a canvas with a message step because I'm just going to work in there, but you could do this in a campaign. It's no problem at all. 2 things you need to do though before we get cracking is set up a custom attribute to follow along today. I've set up one called streak value as a number. And if you set one up as a number, or you might already have one as a number you can use, it'll make it really easy to follow along. And you don't have to do this straight away, but I'm just going to dump all my images into the media library because we're going to need all these images as well as we go through. So they're all just uploading into there. And I like to keep things open across multiple tabs so I can flick between them very easy because we're going to have to come into this media library a few times and grab some of these links. So it can be really helpful to have this open at the same time. So here we are in the drag and drop editor. And what I'm going to do first of all is I like to grab a title block. And the only reason I do this is that when I hit the preview button, it lets me know that the preview button's actually working so that I know whether the drag and drop editor is broken or not. Because when you're doing this kind of dynamic liquid, it's good to know that the whole thing is just working. And then next thing up, we need to grab an image block, which we're going to chuck in here. And we uploaded all our images before, so we can browse for one of them. I'm going to browse for the 0. And the reason we actually do this is because if you don't put an image in here to determine the width that should be in this block, it will just show up as a tiny little sausage. You don't want that. So this tells it that we want it to be 600 wide. And you're like, yeah, cool, but that's just a static image. Well, I got you, boo. Come over here and image with liquid, and we're going to turn that on. Now what this means is there's a little dynamic URL box here. We can actually type liquid logic into this to change this image. Now this box is really hard to write in because it's tiny, so we're not going to work in there. I'll show you my little hack for that. We're going to go over here. We're going to put some HTML. We're going to put a HTML block here. And don't worry if you haven't typed HTML before. It's okay. I got you. But before we do that as well, we're going to go personalization. We're going to find the custom attribute we had before. So my streak value, the one we created. And we're just going to copy that so we can remember how to write that. Go back to HTML block. We're going to expand that. We're going to delete everything that's in there. And we're going to start off with curly braces. percentage sign. So we're opening and closing curly braces and percentage signs because that's liquid logic. We're going to type if, and then we're going to paste in our custom attribute value. So I got that in there. If it equals 25, so if the streak value equals 25, we want to show, I'm going to find my 25 bar, and I'm going to come over, and I'm going to copy the URL. Then we go back to our logic and we paste that URL in, and it's saying if the custom attribute value is 25, show this image with this URL. Now what's good here is we can copy this top line. We can paste that in. So if the streak value, we can change this to 50. So we want 50 this time. But where it says if, this now needs to be ELSIF, else if, without the E. So it's else if it equals 50. We come back over here, we find our 50 bar, we copy the image link, and we put that in there. So it's saying, if the custom streak value equals 25, show this image. If that's not true, else if, check for 50. If it's 50, show this. And now that we have this else if, we're gonna need a couple of these. We can copy that, and we can do one for 75, one for 100. So we'll put them in there, 75, and 100, and we come up and we find our 75 link and we copy that and we put that in here. We find our 100, it's 100 because we're cool. That's what the cool kids do. And then to finish this off, well, almost to finish this off, we want another percentage sign. We're going to type else with an E this time. It's saying, if this is true, do this, else if this is true, do this, so forth, else if none of this is true, do this instead. And what I often do here is put in, say, an image, a default image. You put any default image, but I often use things like the 0 bar. So if nothing else is true and this is somehow broken or it actually equals 0, show the 0 image. And then because we did an if statement, we always have to do an end if. Super important. Nothing will work if you don't type end if at the end. Anytime you start something with logic, end it. Now we're going to copy this. We can close this. This is going to look a little bit messy for a moment, but we're just going to be working in here. So we go back to our image, we go to the dynamic URL box, and we paste that in there. Now you can get rid of this HTML if you want, but we will need it in a sec, so I'm just going to leave it there, so excuse the mess. Now if I come over and do preview, what we're going to see is the streak bar at the top, and nothing will really look the same. Just ignore the code that's underneath. Now if we go over and pick custom user, down here you'll see your streak, in my case streak value, you'll see the custom attribute using. So if I put 25, watch the magic. Ooh, dude. And if I put 50, ooh, 75 and 100. And then if I put any other number like 44 or 144, it should always show 0 because that's the fallback. Now how this is working is it looks like the bar's moving, but what it's doing is it's just replacing the image with the one that we created, depending on the custom attribute value that user has. So you could have many of these and it could be changing in lots of different ways. You also don't need to use this for streak bars. You can use this kind of logic just to change the image in an email or something else. So don't just think this is for streak bars. This is a good way to dynamically change images based on values the user has. Be like, yeah, David, but 25, 50, 75, it's a bit dry. What if they're 24? Good question. So what we're going to do, we're going to back into our liquid. We're going to expand this out again. And now we're going to create a range for these values. So it says if custom attribute equals 25, what we're going to make that is less than or equal to 25. So anything less than 25. And we need to put an and in here. And we need to copy custom attribute value and copy that and paste that. And it is greater than 0. Then show the 25 box. So it's saying if it's less than or equal to 25, so 0 to 25, 0, 25 including, and greater than 0, so it needs to be from 1 now. So between 1 and 25, show 25. Just for cleanliness, I'm just going to move these around this way because it's just going to look a bit cleaner to read if I do it this way. It's greater than 0 and less than or equal to 25. Now we need to copy this. Don't forget to copy it or it won't work because we've got to put it back into this image block up here. Paste that in there. We'll preview that now. And now we should be getting the 25 block for any numbers between 1 and 25. Okay, so it's showing 25. If I put 24, 25. If I put 0, we should get the 0 block. If I put 2, now we get the 25 block. Now you may not want it to show for 2, you might want to show from 25 and above. So what we'll do is we'll set this so it only shows the bars from what it's hit and above there. It's very easy to do, and we'll do it for the rest of it. And then you're basically done. This is me just showing you some tips and tricks. At this point, you've already built the bar. You're the hero at this point. So we're going to expand this HTML liquid in HTML, and we're going to put this so if it is greater than or equal to 25 and less than 50. So basically if it's 25 or above, so to 49, it'll show that. And then we're going to do, if it's greater than or equal to 50, and then we'll paste this custom attribute and we'll type and, because we want both things to be true. If you don't need both things to be true, you would type or, and less than 75. So now it needs to be this to show this image, it needs to be greater than or equal to 50 or less than 75. And just to make it easier, we can copy that and paste that over. Greater than or equal to 75 and less than 100. So now it'll show from 75 to 99. This last one can be if it's 100, that's fine. And else show 0. Just double check I haven't made any mistakes, and we're going to copy that. And we're going to go back into our image. Don't forget to paste it in here, otherwise it's just not going to work. Paste that in there. And then we preview that. The magic that's about to happen. So what do we got here? It's 2, so it shouldn't show anything before 25. But once it hits 25, we should get the 25 bar. But then if it's 20, that's 0. If it's 26, we get that. If it's 48, we get that. If it's 49, but then 50, it'll go up. So then 69 shouldn't show anything, and 74 shouldn't show anything, but 75, boom. And then 99 shouldn't show anything above that again, but then 100. Oh, I put 1200. 100. So at least we know the else fallback works. And there you go, we have a perfect working bar with a range of numbers. And what's often cool is to put in a 99 bar, so you can have it go right up to the end and just leave a tiny little gap, so it gives people that momentum to want to keep going. So you can have an extra image that is literally just your 99 bar. So that's it. That's everything done. Now what you can do, because that's working, you can now actually get rid of this HTML block. It doesn't need to be there because it's in the dynamic URL and everything will work fine. So if I go back here and put 68, we'll get the 50 bar. Well, perfect. So you can do this with any images you like, however you like. It's that easy. So I look forward to seeing all the cool ways that you use this. Bonus time. I forgot I said I'd show you how to draw these images in Paint. So here we are in MS Paint. I'm going to show you how this can actually be done. Now grab something like the pencil. You want to make the width a little bit bigger. We'll just do it in black to keep it easy. I'm going to draw a rectangle like this. And what you need to make sure you do if you want to do it in Paint is you always need to make sure these are closed off. So I can put lines in here like this and close off each of these areas. Looks a bit like a worm. We'll color it pink so it's a worm. Okay, make sure these are closed. And then that is our 0 image. You can export this now as your 0 image. One thing with Paint though, it's always going to export the background, so you probably need to crop this as close as possible. We need our pink for our worm. We're going to pick the bucket up here. Is that a bucket? That's a bucket. And you say this is your, what do we got? This is your 20% block. Export that. 40% block, 60%, 80%, 100. I've forgotten how to count. And you can export these. And then you can actually have this bar working as your images that show up. And it would actually look kind of cool because it's a little bit wonky. I don't mind that at all. Just to round this out because it's killing me. We need to get this. We need to get the black. So there you go, a super easy status bar that you can use however you like. Maybe it's a fitness streak, maybe it's loyalty points, maybe it's to let users know they're low on credits and they need to top them up. Maybe it's a health bar. The options are actually endless. So let me know in the comments how you think you're going to use the status bar that you've built today. And if you got some value from this video, be sure to hit subscribe and watch this video coming up next.